What's up, guys, and welcome back to a brand new episode of the NeoVintage podcast. I'm Jabril, and I'm with
Steve. Hope everyone's doing well.
And for you guys who don't know this show, we're basically two guys that like to talk over the biggest stories in gaming. But before we get into the stories, we always like to start with what we've been playing. So, Steve, what have you been playing?
So nothing too new. So still playing Crash Bandicoot 4. Really liking it. I finally got to play as the other characters. Small correction, I think I called Crash's old girlfriend Tanya in the last video. It's Tawna. Tawna.
It's close though.
So apologies to that. I really like playing as her. She's got such a weird, different style that makes sense in the way her levels are kind of like alternate levels of what's going on with Crash and Coco. You'll see Crash and Coco doing stuff and things that you do affect that level. Really awesome. I can't give this game enough praise. The content just keeps coming every time where it feels like it's starting to build up to a somewhat ending. They just give you 100 more levels, lots of collectibles. Love that stuff. I will not be platinum, getting the platinum trophy in this game. No, there's no way, because I cannot. I've yet to 100% a level, which is usually get all the boxes, a certain amount of time, and a certain amount of deaths allowed and stuff like that. So I'm just trying to have fun with it. Besides that, I also went back to Star Wars Squadrons because I felt like I was missing something there. But I made the extra step of hooking up my VR finally. And that game skyrockets in quality when you're playing in VR. Now, I know you can't play this game normally, so I
can't watch videos about this.
Yeah, you can't even watch the game, so I know you won't be able to play this in VR.
I wish, man.
But it feels like this game was almost made specifically for that, and I know in a sense it is, because it's just different when you have that square screen, and when with the VR, to be able to actually sit there in the cockpit, to be able to look left and right, it just makes everything a little bit easier. My aiming was somehow better. It made more sense. I played, I want to say, about 45 minutes. At the latter half, I started getting a little, stomach churning, and because you're doing a lot, you're doing barrel rolls and stuff like that. But
yeah, you're upside down, yeah.
The game really just intensifies for me. Now, I don't have a flight stick or anything like that, but so I can't speak to that. But the game is, just when you're flying under Star Destroyers and you're going through these destroyed ships and stuff like that, and seeing the explosions, and it just all worked so much cooler. Obviously, we're huge Star Wars fans, so I'm a little biased. Obviously, being in an A-wing, I lost my mind yesterday.
Yeah.
So, and my wife was there. She was laughing because I was so excited, and it's just great. So I refamiliarized myself with the game. The story actually picked up way more than I thought it was going to do. So I bumped it back up. I was very stale on it for a while, but the gameplay's fantastic. The game in VR is a whole different setup. It's so good, and it's just way worth it if you have the ability to play it in that way. And I hear, obviously, doing it with a flight stick, it makes it even more immersive and stuff like that. So, and the story is actually better than I thought it was going. I thought it was going very beat by beat, and it changes up, and it's actually really interesting and really good. So it makes me kind of sad where it's there's no more content coming to this game, because once I finished it, obviously I will play it every once in a while, but that repetitive stuff is there, because I'm not going to really get into the multiplayer, because that's a little much. And stuff like that, and with really only 2 game modes online, it's just not really attracting to me. So those are the main 2 games I've been playing. I also just a quick mention, I dabbled in the Kingdom Hearts rhythm game that's coming out. They released a demo.
Oh, what, Melody of Memory or something?
Melody of Memories and stuff like that, and it's fine. I don't know how to really describe it. It's they want you to pretend you're playing, but you're not. I'm just so tired of them using Kingdom Hearts 1 Sora for his basic costume, and
Did they really?
Yeah, I don't know why. Just because I guess he's smaller, and you're kind of running on a music track. There's no real notes. The notes are enemies, and you can actually set it to super baby mode and just push one button to do it all. It's not really engaging. It reminds me of the theater rhythm Final Fantasy games that they did on DS.
Yeah,
sort of.
I remember those.
Except those were way more rhythm based, where this one's trying to be an action thing with random enemies and stuff like that. The songs are cool, but it falls into that same aspect where Persona Dancing All Night, where they add a bunch of clapping and stuff that aren't into the track, so it's weird. I don't know. I was like super excited for this game because Final Fantasy. I'm not Final Fantasy. Kingdom Hearts music is great. Now I'm like, I don't want to play this at release, especially like on a console, because I think this releases after PS5, so I'd have to play it on my PS5, and I'm like, you're telling me I could play Miles or Sackboy or Demon Souls, or I can play this, and I'm like, well, maybe I'll wait on that. But we'll see. So that's all I've been playing. I wanted to just try out that demo because it is available. There's 4 tracks. But obviously Squadrons and Crash Bandicoot, I still recommend. I think people should check those out if you have the ability to check out Squadrons in VR. Without it, it's a little like less of a game. So what have you been up to?
Yeah, so I've been playing 3 things actually. The first one is one that I actually beat Control probably last Tuesday or so. Ran through it fairly fast. I was actually really surprised because, well, first off, not to get into too many spoilers or anything for anyone who hasn't played or anything like that, it does fake you out with the credits at one point. Yep. And so my credits started rolling, and I was like, wait, what the hell? And so maybe I played a little bit more, and then it actually, like, the credits actually run. And I was like, whoa, that, like, was way sooner than I thought it was going to be. Now, admittedly, I didn't do a ton of side quests. So when the game finishes, it gives you a full opportunity to do so. So I may go back to the game and actually fill that out a bit. But I did kind of mainline the game so much because I just really wanted to get the story. And for the most part, I was able to perform decently with my combat skills and stuff like that. So I didn't find the need to like crazy grind or anything like that. If anything, you know, exploration and stuff like that, and just modifying my character at the different fast travel points and stuff like that was more than enough to keep me, like, you know, up to snuff with the different enemies and stuff like that. Specifically, once I leveled up my kind of like levitation, and when you throw the rocks at people or like whatever you're levitating at, spamming that kept me more than safe. Because once you level that up, I mean, you could do pretty significant damage with that. So the moment you start like flying and you start launching things up here, you essentially just turn into like Dark Phoenix, where like there's not much people could do to you. So and then I leveled up like my health regen and stuff like that. So by the end of the game, I wasn't really having any problems whatsoever on pretty much normal difficulty. But yeah, no, I had a really, really, really fun time. Again, this is base game. I didn't play any of the DLC or anything like that. But definitely understand the hype. Definitely understand a lot of the criticisms in terms of its performance. It's definitely one of those games that the moment I was playing it for like an hour or so, I was like, yeah, this is one of those games that really does need to be played on a Series X or a PS5. I can tell. It's just barely running on these devices. And again, I said that we're going to bump into more and more games like this the closer we get to next-gen launch, where these are just games that are probably just prioritizing the next-gen devices and releasing versions. And obviously, Control's been out for some time now, but I've seen people running it on PCs and stuff like that, and it's just a way more faithful way to run. So this is very obviously a game that is just overpowered for what the current consoles can provide. And again, these are consoles from, 2013 or something like that. So it makes sense why they're struggling a little bit with this incredibly demanding, fluid, moving game in 2020. So yeah, beat Control, had a great time with that. The next one is actually free DLC that was added. A lot of people have been talking about it. Ghost of Tsushima Legends.
Okay.
Got a little squad together, no other people playing it. Fantastic. Really, really, really solid entry. This is definitely... When I was playing it, I was like, okay, this is exactly what Resident Evil tried to do and failed. This is how you do survival. The cool thing is, like, you choose a role, you can adjust your gear and stuff like that, and you go through waves of enemies, and the AI is intelligent, and obviously the game is beautiful. There's just a whole bunch of really added, like, awesome things that they added in there. Different upgrades you could use, different moves that you can use depending on your class. You can have like different kind of bombs and different kind of health gourds that you can use to, you know, buff your health abilities and stuff like that. So it's really, really intricate, really awesomely made. So awesome that this is also free, because they easily could have charged for this and I think justified the cost. But yeah, I just reinstalled the game, popped on, and there we were to go. I didn't have to spend any extra money. And so yeah, I played maybe 2 survival rounds and a couple of the quote-unquote campaign missions that you could play with somebody. It's really interesting stuff because they introduced things that were not present in your base game. Entirely new ideas, like tethered, because again, there's a supernatural element to Legends that wasn't there in the base game. So you're actually fighting more upgraded monsters and stuff like that. They're called Oni and stuff like that. So that's really, really fun. There is tethered enemies, for example. So like if they're tethered to each other, so if you kill one, it immediately starts absorbing the life force of the other one that it's tethered to. So you have to kill the other one in fast succession. Because so it's like small things like that that make the game very like fast, kinetic, and crazy. I personally chose the samurai class because I just felt like the very loud and proud style. I played Ghost, where I just kind of walk into encampments and be like, come on, boys. Rather than sneaking around, I felt like would be the best choice for me. And it's worked out well. And the cool thing is the team that I actually play with, I'm the samurai, somebody in there is an assassin, and the other person's a ronin. So it works out really, really well.
Okay, so you get the balance.
Yeah, so having a great time with that. The one thing is the survival matches last long as hell. Like the two I did, both of them consistently went above 30 minutes of continuous survival play, which I know doesn't sound like a lot, but when you're doing 30 minutes of continuous fighting, believe me, it's fatiguing. Difficulty wise, as long as you got a team and people who have played Ghost of Tsushima and are aware of, you know, the base things on how to play the game, you'll be okay. It's certainly challenging, but it didn't bump into a point where I felt like I don't have the skills to play this. But I wouldn't advise you playing with anyone who is just jumping into Legends off of not playing the base game, because I believe understanding some of the base stuff about stealth and navigation, parkour is a big thing, because there's a little bit of protecting certain areas, not capture the flag, but like you have different bases and they're trying to take it from you. Navigation plays an important role, because if you don't know how to properly like hook shot and navigate the roofs and move around, you're going to lose points pretty fast. So fast navigation and combat and knowing when to dodge, it's not as reliant as it was in the base game of changing your stances, for example. It's more kind of based on what your stats are. So like if you have like a wind sword equipped, you're going to be better at fighting the larger enemies and stuff like that, which in turn can help you with spear enemies and stuff like that too. But it's not as fluid as like Jin was, where you're changing your roles all the time. I don't know if you can have more than 2 as you upgrade your character more. I'm not sure about that. But that all I know right now is I have stone stance and I believe water stance, if I'm not mistaken, with my samurai character right now. But I would have to look into that more, whether there's a point where you can like freely go between the 4 once your character is all the way upgraded. I'm not sure about that.
Okay.
But yeah, so yeah, Ghost of Tsushima Legends, highly recommend. Fantastic. Challenging, but really fun, especially if you can get a group together of people you know. Playing with randos, I don't suggest it, because, well, it's not that I wouldn't suggest it. If you have like 3, for example, the team I play with is like 3 people. So we usually have a 4th random person. Which works out fine, but there are limited health gourds where it's like if your team is dying and you don't have somebody who's able to res you, you can rely on environmental drums where you hit them and they start healing you. But sometimes there's a thing that I've noticed where randos just hit the drum and don't say anything. So they just use it up and they don't regen. Okay. So you just used our drum by yourself. You didn't tell the team like, hey, everybody come over here, or hit the drum where everybody's near. Or hit it in a point we all need it, but he's like at 75% health, hits the health gourd, and I'm sitting there like almost dying. I'm like, yo, why'd you do that? Like, so you kind of bump into all the same issues you do when you have somebody you don't have like team chemistry with. But other than that, highly recommend the game, especially if you can find people that you know who play it. And then the last one is one that you already spoke about, which is Crash 4. Recently hit the point where you could play as Tawna. I'm like 1 mission past that.
Okay.
Loving the game. Yeah, she plays. I mean, I did not expect that. I mean, she kind of just plays like an action protagonist, not like a traditional mascot platformer at all. She has like a hook shot. She has like I forget what you would call it, but like a special sweeping kick move. Yeah, she's just awesome. And it's very interesting because her range is different. So because she has a kick and she's just not spinning, sometimes you have to be a little bit more reliant with like jumping on people's heads and timing the hookshot move and then getting close to them but not too close, because again, her range is not as high, so you can die from that. So it's really interesting like metagame things that they added to Crash that I never in a million years would have expected this franchise of any to introduce. But yeah, the game is really, really good. It's challenging for sure. not anything I didn't expect, but man, that first boss was no joke. I'm not gonna lie to you. Like, there was a second I was sitting there, and the good thing about it is I die a lot in that game. However, it's never like cheap deaths, so it definitely feels more in line of like when I play Castlevania, where I'm just like, ah, man, I see what I did wrong there. Let me try to fix that better. Instead of cheap, stupid kills where I'm like, it's just frustrating. But yeah, I don't end up getting frustrated with Crash because I feel like everything's fair. They show you fairly fast what exactly they want from you, and it's kind of up to you whether you're up to snuff to be able to perform that. But yeah, having a great time with Crash. Not too much to add that you haven't said already. But I'm excited to keep running through that game, and really impressed what Activision and Toys for Bob were able to do with that game.
Yeah, they were able to make such a faithful sequel, which not that I doubted them, it's just you don't really making a game called Crash Bandicoot 4 is a steep thing. That's like if someone, it's like another Naughty Dog property. Like if you were to make like a Jack and Daxter 4, people are going to be very critical of it. So it's super good.
When Spyro 4 comes, that's going to be big.
Yeah, I wonder who's doing it if it's not Toys for Bob. So it's interesting. I forgot to mention. So I did install Ghost of Tsushima Legends and stuff. I have not had time to play it because I'm waiting for like a good group of people to play, because I always playing with randoms is a struggle in any game. So I'm glad you made me more interested. Like I really want to play it now because love
let me know
game.
When you're ready, and I'll show you some things.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to, because I did install it. I made sure it was updated, and then because I updated and then you have to go into that other menu to hit like download or whatever. So it's ready for me. I just have to get to it now. But now I'm excited because now you gave me that cosign, so I know it's good.
Oh yeah.
All right, so let's get into the stories. We have some good stuff. Obviously, we're on the edge here. We're about to jump into the next gen, full-fledged. And one thing I've been asking for on camera, off camera, to random people at my job is the PS5 UI. Xbox has been very open with theirs. Finally, we get it shown off just 3.5 weeks before launch. So Sony has officially unveiled the PlayStation 5's user interface. A few weeks before its console is due to arrive, it features a taskbar showing audio levels, power, control battery level, your microphone, notifications, all this without having to exit your game. Like on the PS4 right now, you have to hit the home menu and it takes forever because it's all slow. You can also check on download data status. You can see what other people are playing, other people on your friends list if they're streaming. They have this new thing which I'm curious. I don't know how well I'm going to like it, which is the activity cards. So the activity cards displayed for specific games, you'll also be able to jump directly into levels of challenges rather than loading up the game from scratch. They also have a revamped sharing system, like I said, with their new create button. So you can now, picture in picture with your friends' streamings and stuff like that. The new create button gives you, your previous screenshots in the menu at the bottom of the screen. You can also easily switch between capturing video to capturing images. And there's also a main thing that we'll talk about in a second. On their actual main screen, I like that they have like the media section and then the game section, which you're assuming the media is all your streaming platforms and things like that. Smartly enough, they did not even talk about it. They're like, it's there, but we'll keep on going talking about the game. So, PlayStation 5 UI, what do you think before I kind of unravel what I think about it?
Yeah, I mean, I like it a lot. Mm-hmm. I saw some people online, criticizing it one way or another. From what I look for, specifically with PlayStation, is I just want it clean. I want it clean. I want it minimal. I want it intricate if you want that. I want it to have the ability to do a great many things and kind of be customizable to whatever you want. But the base experience to be linear and for me to take a quick glance at the screen and know what I'm looking at. And I think PlayStation is delivering that here. And not to play, comparison or anything like that. But I feel like, especially once you take the PlayStation 5 UI versus the Series X UI, it's just the Series X UI just feels cluttered. And I don't necessarily get that same feeling with the PlayStation 5 UI. I like the way it looks. I hope it stays snappy. That's the one thing is these UIs are always nice and pretty, because I remember looking at the PlayStation 4 UI and I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool. And then by the end, I'm like, holy crap, that thing barely runs. So I hope once, updates happen and they add more and more to the UI that it doesn't get all swamped up and messed up. But I mean, besides that fact, I really, really like it a lot. And I'm not mad at it at all. the activities things and the sharing and stuff like that are not really things that I'm going to use personally. So I hope there's probably a way to kind of prioritize things you do use over things you don't use and kind of move things around. That'd be really cool. That's what I always liked about like the Wii and the 3DS, for example, where you can kind of folder and move things around wherever you want. And if you want to take it off the screen completely, you can do that. I would love that too for the PlayStation 5. If there's like things like I don't personally like share images from games and stuff like that. So like if I could move that out of the way and just have all my games towards the front, all my apps towards the front, and then keep that stuff in the other direction, that'd be great too. But yeah, I'm not mad at it. What do you think?
So yeah, I was excited when this kind of stealth dropped. They even try to call it a PlayStation, their direct thing or whatever. So it's so I was excited. I like how it looks. I was worried at first because it looked like a lot of stuff was going on screen, but it all did look clean and organized compared to the Xbox. And Xbox has always had roughly, ever since Microsoft launched this new blocky thing, they unified it across all their devices, their phones, their gaming system, their tablets and computers. So it looks a little bit more clean than that. Obviously, I like how fast it is, how responsive it is. I like, one thing that I think is people are now talking about, I think kind of went under the radar, is the built-in PlayStation Store into the system. And
yeah,
obviously, what I mean is, obviously, for those who don't know, you don't download the PlayStation Store, but on PS4 you have to launch it as a separate app. It's pretty much opening up in a full web browser. It takes a long time. It's way more integrated now, and it's a step above Xbox, because Xbox kind of has that feel where you can tab over to the store.
Yeah, it's similar. Yeah,
similar, but and then once you click anything, it'll launch the store app. So they didn't super show it that well in the PlayStation in the UI. I think they know one big criticism for them since like the PSP era was how bad their stores fronts usually are. So having it built in more relied on the actual system will hopefully cut back on some of that loading and let you explore the store a little bit more, because people do like to do that, but you got to make it easy. You got to make it easy to like quote unquote virtually walk into a store, look at new things and discover new things. So that's a small feature that I think will work out really well for them just because of their history with that stuff. A lot of these activity cards and stuff like that is a little much. I get it. I get that there will be an audience for that. I do like the trophy tracking system. Obviously, that's going to be cool and specific, showing me like, hey, listen, this trophy you're this far away from, or this activity. I don't know if we needed all that extra stuff of like in-game video helps and stuff to literally hold my hand all the way through it. It takes away some of the challenge, I guess. But again, it's voluntarily, and I'm sure it'll be there at launch for these games. But how much extra time do developers have to do? Because they said it's a game-by-game basis. So like, yeah.
So I would imagine a lot of the first-party stuff is going to take advantage of that.
Yeah, they're going to take it. Launch games will probably take advantage, but it's probably something that'll. I don't know. We'll have to see. I'm sure they can get data on like how many people are actually using it and stuff like that. It is nice for like quick little collectibles. Like, it made sense that they showed this with Sackboy's Big Adventure, because it's a game full of collectibles. I don't want to have to constantly launch up like a menu, on my phone to find out where this one bubble is. What do they go for, robes or something like that in there? So
yeah.
So that's really interesting. I do like, I'm never a person who leaves my PlayStation. Usually, I don't leave it on standby mode, just because power outages and stuff like that screw up. So I don't think I'll ever see that. That's a nice menu when you launch up, and it's like your game's still where it is. Here's a little menu of, almost like a cross media bar of like some things that maybe happened and why you missed it, messages, your friend who's jumped online. I do like the home screen when you're coming from a complete power off. I like that each game feels like you have a page. Like here, you're on your Ratchet and Clank. Here's first a picture of Ratchet and Clank, obviously.
Yeah, it reminds me of Vita.
Yeah, a lot of Vita stuff where it's like, here's this, here's some. Obviously, you can see like when some DLCs and stuff like that are coming out, or events, they're going to be posted right there, which you may have missed, especially right now on PS4. Those are really hidden. You have to go into like communities and follow the certain thing, and it's like a mess. Making it all one-stop shop makes sense and is fantastic. So I was okay with just getting a slightly beefed up PS4 UI, and I for a long time thought that's what was going to happen since they've been so quiet. I'm glad that they really evolved it, where it feels like you're in a brand new system. This is not like a PS4.5. This is like a brand new system where you're taking a generational step even from menu wise. Where Xbox, because if I'm not wrong, Xbox Ones are gonna get the new Xbox home screen soon, or a version of it. So
yeah, the whole suite is getting an upgrade for Xbox.
Yeah, so for PlayStation, you're gonna feel that step where Xbox you'll be able to. And I'm not knocking it because I'm excited. For Xbox, you'll be able to jump and know exactly what to do with everything.
Yeah.
PlayStation 5, as of right now, I'm going to be spending 20 minutes going through all the menus, figuring out what works what launches what, and how to do it. And hopefully they, integrated folders early on, because that's an issue we had with PS4. We had no folders for a long time. So I'm excited. I was surprised by it, but I really like the UI. Again, it's just slightly a little too busy for me, just a little bit, where it looked like a lot of stuff going on. But I'm sure once it becomes second nature to me, I'm gonna probably fall in love with it.
Yeah, I mean, and again, we've been waiting for a long time with this, and it was always kind of the question of like, is it going to be a fundamental reinvention of what they did with the PlayStation 4? But it kind of seems like a very natural evolution from going from PS3 to PS4 now to PS5, where it feels like it takes some of the benefits of the PS3's UI and some of the benefits of the PS4's and kind of puts them together in a nice clean package. Is it perfect? No, but is it one of the better ones that I've ever seen from them? Yeah, personally, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited to get my hands on it. Like, that's a good testament where it's like I want to play with your menus. I want to see what's going on in there. So that's a good testament for it.
Yeah, because it has like the spirit of the cross media bar, but with the general blockiness and look of the PS4 one. Yeah. So that's what I mean. Like, it's like the perfect conglomeration of it.
Yeah, and for a long time, I mean, I was always a big adamant that I liked the cross media bar. I did too. I did not like how it functioned. Downloads took forever. You had to double downloads.
Oh yeah, that was terrible.
We still technically have that on PS4. So, but I do like that. That's pretty much I call it quick bar. I don't know what they officially call it when all the apps show up on the bottom. That I was like, oh man, it's the cross media bar. I love it.
Yeah. So I guess we can move into the next story, and this is probably the most biggest controversy this week that everybody was losing their minds over, and so we can get some clarification here. So this is all about the PlayStation voice chat controversy. So there's been a bunch of controversy regarding the new PlayStation update. The recent 8.0.0 update for the PS4 introduced a new functionality for voice chats and parties that will go live when the PS5 launches, and pop-ups alerted players these chats can be recorded. People obviously did not react to that very well. However, Ask PlayStation UK on Twitter recently responded and said the recent 8.0.0 update for the PS4 introduces new functionality for voice chats and parties that will go live when the PS5 launches, and pop-ups alerted players can see these chats may be recorded. So they're basically clarifying, saying that we're not listening to you guys, but obviously the way the words look like, it sounded like they're basically recording at all times, and if you wanted to report somebody for a voice chat, that's something that you'd have like a live recording of it basically. But this is something that they clarified probably is not going to go launching on the PS4, and that I don't know if it's tech that's going to be readily accessible to the average person. But what did you think about all this nonsense?
Yeah, so it was confusing at first, because when I saw the original people freaking out before I even got to see this actual statement, I was like, they're like, oh, they can listen in and they're listening on your PS4 thing. People are gonna get, there's some vile. I mean, we're on Twitter lightly, but there's some vile people out there who I'm sure talk a lot of trash while playing, and I guess people were afraid. Especially these younger crews. I think back to my Call of Duty days when playing Black Ops 2, the things people were saying in the chat. And
yeah,
it's that's some stuff. Yeah, I see people getting reported for. Quickly, I saw that that's not exactly the case. Where it's not like PlayStation's listening in. They hear you say something crazy, they're gonna ban you or send you. The FBI's coming to your door and stuff like that. I wasn't too worried about this because, one, I don't play games with that many people anymore. If I'm playing, it's usually with one person in a group chat. It's when I'm playing with you, we don't even use voice chat because we don't play anything that wild. So it's stuff we can send over text while we're doing. So it won't really affect me that much. So I do understand the people who are always in the voice. What are you guys saying in your voice chats that's scary? Even if they were listening in, what are you guys saying that's that scary? And I understand it's more of a privacy issue. PlayStation's not I don't want to say not dumb enough, but they're smart enough to know that they can't just come up and be like, yeah, we're gonna listen to all your conversations, watch out what you say, we're trying to make a friendly platform. They have so many restrictions on who can jump in and out of parties and who can listen. And if you're really worried about your friends recording you and sending it to PlayStation for evaluation because you said something crazy, then that's something you gotta work out with your friends. I just was surprised that this was like, I saw it spike and people were talking about it like crazy, and then it kind of dropped where people were like over it already. But just the little bit of controversy always can really explode, and we see that with this voice chat.
Yeah, and I actually got the official what they said on Twitter. I screwed that up earlier. It said, "Hello, the notification advises you that other users may be recording your voice conversation. We do not record party chats." Mm-hmm. So that's what their clarification on Sony's end was. But yeah, I mean, it doesn't surprise me. So actually, I was in a voice chat yesterday. And one of them was actually Twitch streaming and stuff like that, and it was relatively calm. But then I remember, like, yeah, when you're gaming, some people say some reckless stuff. That's just facts. It doesn't make it right, but it's just facts. And then I think back to, like, imagine like the Modern Warfare 2 days. And so if you told those people, like, hey, these chats are getting recorded, it doesn't surprise me that people had a nuclear meltdown. Because people talk more reckless online than on these voice chats, pretty much more than anywhere else on the internet, period. So it doesn't surprise me why people were freaking out about that. But again, yeah, the likelihood of PlayStation actually listening up and recording these, I mean, it's just such a stupid allocation of manpower. Mm-hmm. But again, I wouldn't say that it's impossible, because we've seen companies dedicate manpower to lots of stupid things. So I wouldn't say it's impossible. When this story broke initially, my guess was, so when somebody says something messed up to you in a chat, or in a message, for example, and you want to report them, you report the message, PlayStation can read it, they could ban them, whatever, or suspend them or whatever. Mm-hmm. If someone says something reckless in a chat, when you want to report them, there's no real recourse. So my guess was PlayStation was going to try to have a friendlier community going into the PS5, so they were going to record all the chats. So in the event that somebody wanted to, like, snitch or, like, report you, there is an audio record of that can be, from that point, pulled from the system, listened to, and then they could take action from there. That was just my guess. This is pure speculation on my end. But that's what I was thinking maybe is a thing, because again, maybe they want to clean up the system because they know people talk crazy on these voice chats. They know people go onto these lobbies and talk reckless. And going into PlayStation 5, there has been a concerted movement on PlayStation's end to clean up their ecosystem. There has been, with they're harder on cheaters, harder on reporting people. They're banning certain games. There's censorship and stuff like that. So they're definitely moving in a direction where they've seemed like they've tried to clean up their ecosystem. So it doesn't surprise me if they inevitably wanted to find a way to have recourse for like reporting people on audio channels. That's just a guess on my end, though.
Yeah, I understand that too. I saw one other person dive in thinking more same basis where they're like, you know how the PlayStation is like constantly recording your 15 minutes or whatever if you were to save it, like as a screenshot, not a screenshot, as the video. And they're like, it may be a feature like that if someone's starting to threaten you physically or swatting you, doxing you, these extreme things, you can actually have like a record of like that kind of stuff. If it was constantly recording the last, maybe not even 15 minutes, because that's a lot of, but 5 minutes of stuff, things like that. I think the more how it's like saying that, like, when they reiterated now with the new quote, you were like, hey, it's gonna alert you that other people could be recording it. I think that's probably way more into the streaming thing. That way, if I'm streaming, like you were saying, you were in a group that people were on Twitch, it would, hey, listen, this person may be recording you because it's streaming, which saves on Twitch archives, or could be recorded for YouTube and stuff like that. It's just trying to be very transparent at the same time. So again, I just don't, I'm sure this is probably the last time we'll hear about this, because it's kind of there. I'm not too affected. Most people I know aren't too affected by this, because if you're playing with friends, you're with your friends. Don't do stupid stuff. Obviously, you shouldn't do that regardless. Don't say nonsense on there, especially, don't pick, if you're some reason playing, I don't know, Minecraft, if you have voice, don't pick on the little kids, or if you're in Fortnite, just watch it, because there is always people listening, so not to be conspiracy, but just take it easy out there. You don't have to be vile all the time.
Yeah, it seems like this is kind of another controversy where people maybe jump the gun a little bit, and you kind of have to wait for official statements from these companies. And obviously, when they release these official statements, some people are gonna have the reaction, "Well, of course they're a lie" and stuff like that. And it's like, to be honest, if you're that cynical with these companies, then there's no point in even waiting for them to say anything, because you're probably not gonna believe them anyways. So maybe this ain't the ecosystem for you if you really think these companies are that out to get you.
Yeah, use a different chat app.
Use Discord.
Use Discord. If you're really worried about it, you can launch your own and have control. And I've seen people get in trouble on Discord too. So come on, just take it easy.
Yeah, at this place of zero recourse in the event of you saying reckless. I don't know if that exists. Fortunately for some, unfortunately for others. But
yeah.
I mean, best of luck out there.
Yeah, good luck. It doesn't bother me literally ever. All right, so. Our boy Phil Spencer gave a small interview, which was exciting anytime we get any information from him. So, some interesting things. So, Phil Spencer recently did an interview with Kotaku, and I'm surprised he did it with Kotaku, and we get a lot of interesting information from it. So, he goes, we have xCloud and PC and Game Pass, and our console base. I don't have to go ship, these games on any other platform other than the platforms that we support in order to kind of make the deal work for us. And this is all in relation to mainly into the Bethesda Microsoft buyout. I would say buyout, but the acquisition. So whatever that means, basically saying that we have no obligation to release games on platforms it doesn't control for the financial aspect of the deal to make sense. And this was again, according to Phil Spencer, the Bethesda games don't need to be released on PS5 to recoup the cost. So, before we go into the other two, we'll dissect it after all. So Phil Spencer, as he said, doesn't find releasing Xbox games on Switch to be a sustainable strategy as long as a full Xbox experience, including Live and Game Pass, isn't involved. His third point was, I think over the generation, our expectation would be that the price really matters, and that you would see the series as somewhere. So those are his main three discussion points. So the big thing was about the Bethesda stuff. Obviously, talking about next gen, Microsoft's full-fledged on the Series S and the Series X. Obviously thinking price matters, which it does. And the other point really was just putting Xbox games on other platforms again, not excluding PC, because obviously that's all one build. So we'll go for the first point, which was really big stuff thrown at PS5. A lot of controversy and talks and discussions have gone both ways, where our Bethesda games, future Bethesda games, because we have the next two Bethesda games are locked in on PS4. Future Bethesda games, Starfield and Elder Scrolls 6, and anything else that comes out, are they going to come to PS5? And I was always saying yes. I was always saying, this is the company that has Skyrim run on everything. I'm a little less on that camp now, because this is Phil Spencer saying, we don't need to put it there. He goes, so it's interesting to say, what did you think about that first point he made?
Yeah, I mean, when you hear this quote on its own, I understand why you'd have that conclusion. The thing is, I kind of contextualize it with what Phil Spencer has repeatedly iterated from multiple times now, especially going into the Series X and S generation, which is we want to encourage people to play what they want, wherever they want, when they want to play it. And so that's what his reaction to basically exclusivity was, where he's not particularly that interested in having games locked to the Xbox ecosystem. Mm-hmm. So when I read this quote, this seems more like a response to a lot of people who basically make the assertion that Xbox is in a position where they don't sell as much as PlayStation, so they need to put their games everywhere, obviously, to be able to make that money. So I took this quote as more of a flex, to be honest, which is like, we don't necessarily want to do the exclusive game. However, believe us, we have enough people in our ecosystem and enough different devices, built into the ecosystem where we don't even need to put it on PS5. So I didn't read it as him saying we're not going to put it on PS5, but more so a flex, don't get it twisted. We don't need to do that, but we're still willing to. Mm-hmm. So it felt like a subtle flex, of anything, just because of the other things that he also said in this interview. Seemed like a lot of responses to kind of common speculation and discourse happening around the Xbox brand and ecosystem, where people talk about like what is their relationship with Nintendo, what is this whole, like, how are they going to sell, how is that going to be in relation to the S versus the X, and then obviously with this Bethesda acquisition, are they going to be exclusives? Are they going to be locked to the Xbox ecosystem? And are there financial realities to Xbox needing to kind of spread out everywhere because they're quote unquote in like a losing position? And so from the way I read it was him clarifying like, no, we're not in a losing position. We're willing to play ball because we want to, not be out of a necessity. Mm-hmm. But that's just how I read it. Maybe I'm putting a little bit too much sauce on it, but that's how I saw it.
Yeah, it's always difficult when we weren't there to hear what was the question exactly, what was exactly responded, and you never know. So I do see it both ways. I didn't see it in that aspect, but now I kind of do, thinking, because he says we don't, like he always says he doesn't need to be released on there. Doesn't say they won't be. Doesn't say there won't be 6 months exclusivity. Sony has that exclusivity deal with like Square Enix and stuff like that. So obviously making that deal with your own party studios makes sense. His second point, talking about the whole, is it, releasing games on Switch and stuff like that. Every time they say they're not releasing any more things on Switch, they go ahead and they do. Yeah. They did. Minecraft was an obviously given, but then they did Cuphead, then they did the first Ori, and then they're like, no more. Then they did the second Ori, so it's like we don't really know what's going on there. Obviously, the numbers are probably convincing, because if your game's selling there a lot, why leave that audience behind? Especially, you don't have your own handheld, stuff like that. So it is interesting what they're doing over there. I'm glad that they're taking it in. That means that, at least to me, it does mean that they're watching. If they feel if it costs more to put it on PS5, let's say, than what it returns, and depending on the game, it may. Why do that? Bethesda games have always run kind of bad on PlayStation systems. Just go back to 2011 and try to play Skyrim on your PS3.
That was rough.
That's not going to happen. So, this has always been in conversation here with them. So it's interesting to see them come out a little bit more in the open. And now I do see it a little bit more that way, where Phil Spencer was like, we don't have to. If we do it, it's because we want to do it. If we do it, it's because, we want to make even more money on these games, obviously. But I do think that they're going in, and I think rightfully so, that this Xbox generation is going to be completely different than what happened with the One. I think they are going to have a bigger, base of people, especially when he was talking about, I think, the Series S's will sell more. Well, to an extent, obviously, yeah, especially holiday seasons are coming, and maybe not even this holiday, but next holiday season maybe, when things are a little bit better. 2020 has been rough on a lot of people economically and stuff like that, so having, here's the new system at a cheaper price, obviously that's way more convenient, and it's going to be way better. Younger kids aren't going to care if you're playing on a 4K and stuff like that, so when they really see that the price is what's going to matter in system-wise, it's going to make sense when this is all said and done. When we see these initial sales, you're going to see, what is selling. Is the X selling? Is the S selling? And why?
Yeah, absolutely. And I would also like to iterate, based on the information we got regarding this Bethesda acquisition by Microsoft in a previous week, exclusivity to the Xbox ecosystem is not even really Phil Spencer's call, to be honest, judging by what they've said, their own words. That's not his call to make. So another thing where like they're saying, oh, Phil Spencer's gonna hold, the Bethesda games as Xbox exclusives, when he said that he didn't want to do exclusives. What's up with that? That's not really his call to make. If a Bethesda game is an Xbox exclusive, that's something that's more of a Pete Hines choice than a Phil Spencer choice, by their own words. Again, I'm not a shareholder in Microsoft, so I'm not saying that definitively, but based on what they said this acquisition is keeping all management intact, and all autonomy choices and stuff like that rely on Bethesda. So again, exclusivity is a Bethesda call, not an Xbox call. So that's why I read it the way I did, because he could say all day, okay, Bethesda games only on Xbox, but that only is going to play out that way when Bethesda chooses to operate their business that way. And it doesn't seem like that financially there needs to be exclusives or, needs to be everywhere. I feel like both companies are so healthy that they can kind of do whatever they want and what's in the spirit of the best interest of their game at any given time.
No, yeah, I completely agree. And we don't know the exact fine prints, but, that does go back to the quote where, they talked about games being released elsewhere on a game-by-game basis. So I do think, as of right now, again, we don't know, I do think some games will be exclusive to Microsoft platforms. I don't think like these bigger ones, I just don't see them trying to lock in Elder Scrolls 6 just on Xbox when they can sell tons of it elsewhere. But you never know. We don't know. Was there a deal already in the works for some time exclusivity that revamped when they purchased them? These are things we really can't. I mean, nobody saw this acquisition coming in general, so we don't really even know what to go with. Who approached who.
Yeah, it's like an exclusive Doom, an exclusive Elder Scrolls, or a Starfield. That is not going to happen. However, at some point, maybe a timed exclusive of like the next Wolfenstein. Sure, I can see that. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, if the shoe was on the other foot, those two, if obviously this was in talks longer, those two games would not be coming exclusively console-wise to PlayStation. It would be the other way around. So it's like, will these smaller games, what's that Assassin game coming out by them? That looks like We Happy Few. I always forget what it's called. But that, the next game in that sense, that Arcane's making, or, the guys who made Rage, are it's all this other stuff. Will these...
No, something like that.
Yeah, Deathloop. Will the next game... because we live in a world where Deathloop 2 could be almost a console exclusive to the Series X, or, the series, or whatever they end up calling the next generation of it. So we never know. We have to kind of just... Unfortunately, we have to, as a fan base, just go case by case. You and I aren't really affected by this because we are very agnostic. We play everywhere. So
yeah,
we're in the clear. And most people are, especially when you have an option of getting a $300 Xbox. So... you guys will be able to play your games. Don't worry.
Yeah, that's a great thing is at $300, it can be an excellent companion console. Mm-hmm. So for relatively decent prices, if you're able to get like maybe the digital-only PS5 for $400 and maybe the Xbox Series S as a side console, stuff like that, your buy-in to the next gen as an agnostic gamer is not nearly as expensive as it was in previous generations. Yeah. So I guess we could jump into the last story, and there's another Xbox story. So we basically have the Xbox Series X launch lineup, and also on the tail end of this, we could talk about some of the early talks that have come out because people actually have reviews for the Series X now. Mm-hmm. So let's just get started with the launch lineup. So Microsoft has outlined the list of day one launch games for the Series X and the Series S, a host of new next-gen games as well as cross-gen releases spanning both Xbox exclusives and third-party multi-platform offerings. The full list, as revealed by Microsoft today, also says what games support smart delivery, which is the process which Xbox players can play the platform-specific versions of each game, even if they play across platforms, as well as games that will be available on Game Pass day one. The launch list is as followed, and I think there's like 30 games here, so bear with me. So we got Assassin's Creed Valhalla, Borderlands 3, Bright Memory 1.0, Cuisine Royale, Dead by Daylight, the DMC Special Edition, Dirt 5, Enlisted, Evergate, The Falconeer, Fortnite, Forza Horizon 4, Gears 5, Gears Tactics, which obviously was on PC, but it's coming to console for the first time. Grounded, Obsidian's game, King Oddball, Maneater, Manifold Garden, NBA 2K21, Observer, System Redux, Ori and the Will of the Wisps, Planet Coaster, Sea of Thieves, Tetris Effect Connected, which I'm super excited about, The Tourist, War Thunder, Warhammer, Watch Dogs Legion, WRC 9 FIA World Rally Championship, Yakuza Like a Dragon, and Yes, Your Grace. So a lot of games there, but it's important to make the distinction between the fact that a lot of these games are getting like Series X upgrades, but they have been around for quite some time. Like Sea of Thieves, obviously, Gears has been around for some time now. So none of these games are brand new first-party offerings. The closest thing we have right now is Gears Tactics, but again, that was released on PC some time ago. So, but we do have some games that are going to be really fun to be able to play brand new, like Assassin's Creed Valhalla and Dirt 5 and stuff like that. So what do you think about this launch lineup?
So it's a decent launch lineup. For me, there's a lot of games I do want to play on this list. Obviously, luckily, some of these games are launching very close to the the launch of this. Valhalla. Assassin's Creed Valhalla is a game you and I have been looking forward to since we were calling it Ragnarok. And even though it is a cross-gen, I'm playing it on Xbox because it's going to have the Xbox Series X update and the smart delivery stuff, obviously. And it comes out right around that time, right? If not the same day. I don't even remember. They moved the date around so many times now I'm confused when Valhalla releases. So that, I'm going to treat that as a full launch title. But, other things, I don't have the time right now to jump back into Borderlands 3. I don't play Dirt, which is weird because it's, we'll get more into about when they come into the reviews about Dirt, but they keep showing that game off as this big Series, X thing, and a lot of people are saying it's not. Not that it's not a good game, but it doesn't show what the Series can actually really do.
Yeah, it's like a current gen experience from everything I've seen.
Yeah, and even even these influences that have Series X's are kind of saying the same thing. But Horizon 4, I've already played a lot of it. How much more that game already looks fantastic. How much more fantastic can it really look? Being such an older game. Gears 5, I'm okay with it if it runs better. I did have some issues with the way Gears 5 ran on the One X. So if that's going to be smoother, that'll be fine. But again, I'm not really playing the campaign much anymore. I do play the Horde mode every once in a while. But all this other stuff, Maneater, that's the shark game, right? If I'm correct.
I believe so. I've seen that kind of floating around, people talking about it.
Yeah, that's not really a thing for me. King Oddball, I'm not playing NBA 2K because those games all the sports games this year have been very bad. Sea of Thieves, I played that at launch. I never played the revamped, so it's weird. So, the exciting stuff, that I'm excited to play are some of these older games that have either getting revamped. The only new game I'm really excited to jump into will probably be Assassin's Creed from this list. Tetris Effect will be fine. I'll be excited to play that. Just because you can finally play multiplayer on Tetris Effect, which is, I don't know why that's been so delayed from the PlayStation version. And I think now it's exclusive to Xbox for a year. If I'm not wrong, if I remember that whole thing correctly. Yakuza Like a Dragon is also the only other title on here I'm excited to play, which will have a smart delivery system for Xbox, which is the first time one of these games are premiering on Xbox now. So it's my big thing is like Dirt 5 and Yakuza are these games that they've been showing a lot for the launch lineup, in addition to Assassin's Creed. But the first those two, Yakuza and Dirt, have been reviewed as really not that. They're great games, but that doesn't really show what the Series X does. It's you're still playing an Xbox One game.
Yeah, and it's one of those things, I look at this list, I'm not mad at it, but it just, there's one glaring thing that fixes all this, and it's just such a shame that they couldn't have gotten Halo. If they could have just gotten Halo out for this launch, everything changes. Then finally it's okay, yeah, there's not much from the first party, but you got their major game, and then all the multi-platform, all the older stuff, all the third-party stuff, then that's fine. It beefs it out a lot, and then you enter the realm of a normal launch. It's just that weird position where you look at this and it's a vast majority of these experiences will be available on PlayStation as well, and there are some time stuff, obviously Yakuza Like a Dragon's not coming to PlayStation until next year, I believe, and stuff like that. Forza, all the Xbox One exclusives are going to continue to be Series X exclusives, Forza and Gears and stuff like that. But it's just one of those things where I'm kind of sitting there and it's man, I just wish for a little bit more new experiences for them, where it's just, I wish they weren't so reliant on last gen upgrades, because those aren't necessarily new experiences, especially for people who have Game Pass already. Basically being this is a Series X upgrade of this game, and it's yeah, but that game came out years ago, and personally, if I'm shoveling out $500 for a new machine, I'm doing that for new Series X experiences, and unfortunately for right now, this minute, there's not really that many Series X experiences. When, unfortunately, you could say pretty definitively, there are absolutely PS5 experiences that we're going to get.
Yeah.
And it seems just Xbox is taking a little bit of a different, very PC-like approach, where it's if you have an older graphics card and stuff like that, you'll be able to play all the new games just at a lower fidelity. And it seems like Xbox is going for more that thing where they don't want to have anything that's like really extracting every piece of power out of this machine quite yet, because they're doing this kind of like soft launch approach to it. So yeah, I'm not mad at it. There's absolutely things that I'm gonna be playing on Xbox. Like personally, I'm playing Assassin's Creed Valhalla. I'm playing Cyberpunk. I'm playing Yakuza. I'm not playing Sea of Thieves. What am I kidding?
Oh, you're gonna play Planet Coaster, right?
Hell no, I ain't playing that. Tetris Effect Connected.
Yeah.
So there absolutely is going to be a bunch of things. I'm probably going to take this opportunity to jump into Gears 5. So there are many games I'm going to be playing on Series X, and I'm very happy about that. I just wish that there was just a major first-party offering like Halo, and it's a real shame that wasn't able to make it. And it makes you wonder when you look at this, like, is this the best time for you guys to be launching a brand new console? And I understand that PlayStation's going right now, and it seems like they're ready to go. But I just have to keep asking myself, like, is this the best time for Microsoft? And I have a strong reason to believe that, like, late Q1, early Q2, when they can have a whole bunch of these games and, you know, the 2021 games and then Halo right there with it, might be a better option for them. But again, I think they're going to do fine. I think people are going to be happy with it. There's more than enough to play, and ultimately that's what matters, is can you play your new device. I just wish there was a little bit more out there to extract every bit of power uniquely on the Series X.
Yeah, and it's definitely obviously, you know, it's obvious that Halo was supposed to be in this launch. We got that leaked Xbox unboxing, that weird guy in the warehouse or whatever unboxing an Xbox illegally. And all over that box you see like Master Chief. Oh,
Spanish dude?
Yeah, you have the Master Chief on it. The commercials I keep getting on YouTube. I actually saw one the other day on, I don't know what streaming service I was watching, but I got a Xbox commercial. And the first thing it shows is, you know, Master Chief standing up, and I'm like, this delay really hit them because they didn't even have time to rework some of the promotion. And obviously it's way too late to rework some of your promotions and stuff like that. I think Halo would have been really nice to have at launch. I think that was completely the plan, especially to mimic the original Xbox launch. But, you know, like you said, there are things I'm going to be playing on here. Like we said, Cyberpunk comes out, I believe, the week after or 2 weeks after the launch of these systems. So it's going to be there. It's going to be fantastic. And, well, hopefully, you know, the game's on gold, so it's not going to get delayed anymore. And, you know, to play catch up on some of this stuff for other people who haven't had time, like for people who haven't had time to play Borderlands, you can get Borderlands on Xbox for like $10 physical. So with smart delivery, that'll hopefully have, you know, their enhancements, and you can play that new 4-player mode that they're going to do. So there are some things there, and there's some reasons to revisit some of these games. You know, like I've been dying to replay Devil May Cry 5, but I'm obviously going to wait for the special edition, you know, to jump back into that. But again, that's a game that came out, 2 years ago now? So it's like if you haven't played some of these games, that's fine. Or if you haven't seen enough of these games, you have a nice handful. I do agree with you. They did need that 1 or 2 big titles, which is, you know, what Sony does have on their end and helps you show off their new system. You know, they even have, like, you know, Sony has these smaller titles. They have that Destruction All-Stars and stuff like that. And Xbox is just kind of missing that. Games where you can only really play on Xbox. You know, when you have a list like this and so many are old games, it just hurts it a little bit. Because how much are these games going to be really revamped to the series?
Yeah, exactly. And I guess we can move on to the latter half here. And I don't have a write-up on this, but there's just an interesting quick discussion that we can have, which is finally the review embargo for the Series X is up. People have this console in their hands. They're early units, so they're technically not the official last retail units, but they're generally the consoles we're going to be playing are out there. People are reviewing it. People seem to be enjoying it. I don't know if you've caught any of the reviews for it, but it seems like one of those things that it offers the place to play a lot of these older games definitively in their best quality possible. But the main critique, obviously, is as of right now, there's not too many things that they could point to as a definitive Series X experience right now. But yeah, and it does seem like the heating problem, not too much of a concern. A lot of people have come out and being like, yeah, no, it runs a little warm, but that's kind of like normal because it's a piece of hardware and not just something sitting idly on a desk.
Yeah.
So naturally, it's going to get a little warm and stuff like that. But it does get me really excited, and people seem generally pretty positive on it. So what do you think?
So I'm excited. Influencers, I've heard a couple people discuss it. People are kind of funny. I hear discuss it just a little bit. Yep. The main guy I've been going for information is I think you sent him. I don't even know if I think it was you who sent me his channel months ago. Austin Evans.
Oh yes.
Who does I think he did the breakdown, if I'm right.
Yeah, he's excellent. Yeah, he has two different channels about it. Yeah.
Yeah, so I've been watching a lot of his stuff. Usually when the Xbox overheating thing, he tested it out to the point where he like stuck it in a cardboard box to mimic like a home theater setup and stuff like that, and didn't run that crazy hot and stuff like that. He showed off the quick features very well. Again, he has an early build, so he was able to. I think when he was playing like the Minecraft that one time, he was able to turn on like ray tracing and stuff like that. Yep. So you can see the difference and stuff, but that doesn't mean that's the Minecraft we're gonna get. So it's exciting, but I agree with you, and I think the world's pretty agreed. It's like this is a super powerful system. Your old games are gonna play even better on it now. Loading times are a lot less. Like I saw that Red Dead Redemption loads. I don't even know where I saw that one, but the Red Dead Redemption loads, which is famous for a super long load time, loads very quick compared to that.
Quick relative to
like not GTA, Rockstar games in general that take forever. So it's a powerful system. It's such a good starting point. Again, if they had one or two titles, they'd be perfect right now. But it's a good starting point. Yeah. And if now that the hardware is there, both versions, I think they just really have to start coming with games. Now it's game time. Microsoft has not given us a 20-minute, speech on how Netflix works on their system. We know it's there, but who cares? It's just, I think now it's time for them to buckle in with all these parties. They've been doing a lot of acquisitions. You got a lot of parties. It's time to start showing some of this stuff. We don't know when Hellblade is planned. We don't know what's in the future for Halo. We don't know where that's going. We don't know what the Coalition is doing with the next Gears.
Obsidian stuff is coming.
You got Obsidian stuff coming at some point. So... And you have what's their quadruple A company, The Initiative?
The Initiative, yeah.
What's going on over there? If it's this big team with so much money, are they producing 2 titles? Are they producing a small one, a bigger game? You think this quadruple A game would be at launch, or at least in a launch window? That's now really what their focus needs to be, because I think it's almost general consensus that they're like, the box is strong. The box has the power. It's easy to develop for. It's there. People are okay with the investment. It doesn't overheat. So now it's time to give people a reason to have your system besides, Game Pass and stuff like that. People want good games, and they want new games too. You can't always rely on old experiences.
Yeah, because the reality is there are going to be old experiences with upgrades on the PlayStation 5 as well. The only difference is their marketing for it. It just seems PlayStation's making a way more concerted effort to talk about the new experiences that you'll get on this console if you buy into it. That they're focusing on the Miles Morales, the Sackboys, the Demon Souls, the Destruction All-Stars. These are the things that they're focusing on. But keep in mind, when you look at all these upgrades and stuff like that of older games and stuff like that, these very same games will be available upgraded on the PlayStation as well. So it's not so much that I have an issue with Microsoft's upgrades or even them talking about it, but I think it's their reliance on that as marketing to kind of fill in the gaps of an otherwise rather lackluster launch lineup is maybe the issue. And again, this is speaking from someone who I bought the console. I'm going to play the hell out of this console day one, the moment I have it. But I feel like there are some glaring omissions from the launch lineup, and it's worth bringing light to have very honest discourse about the state of this console. It's honestly going to be probably a little bit of a slow grind for this console because it's just running into some of the similar issues that people have criticized Xbox for a long time, which is, why should I get your console if I can play this somewhere else? That's just a simple question. And sometimes they have trouble answering that question, which is, day one, there's a PlayStation on the shelf, there's an Xbox on the shelf. 95% of what you can play on that Xbox, you can also play on the PlayStation. A vast majority of PlayStation's launch lineup, you cannot play on the Xbox day one. So for the average consumer, which one do you recommend them buy? And me, as an agnostic gamer, I'd love to be in a position to tell them to buy both. But you're kind of in the rough situation where it's like smart delivery and upgrades, I don't know, is necessarily enough for me to push you in the Xbox ecosystem direction. You know what I mean? But again, things will change. The first party will kick into gear. There will be those exclusive experiences like Hellblade, like Halo, whatever Obsidian does. We'll see if that's an exclusive or not. And then, yeah, we're having a completely different conversation. But at least for the latter half of 2020 right now, as things stand right now, I think there is much to be desired in terms of this launch lineup.
Yeah, which is, it's not sad to say, because I just expected them to come out swinging with titles, especially since, like you said, that's the criticism they've had for so long. Like, that's the one critique people have really been going on for Xbox pretty much this whole generation is, the lackluster of titles. And I think they know that, and I think, obviously, we have to remember the pandemic really changed things up and what things were planned to do. So, because obviously they wanted people with, hands-on at E3 and stuff like that. But things change.
Yeah, I think the big thing that can change all this conversation, and I'll eat my words, is if things definitively and very obviously run better on the Series X. If that is the case, then yeah, I take my words back. And then it doesn't really matter, because then a lot of people are going to run to them for those third-party experiences as well. But as of right now, I haven't caught any wind of a massive discrepancy in the way these two machines run. So that doesn't seem the case. But I just wanted to note that if in the event this quote-unquote world's strongest console does definitively run Call of Duty and Assassin's Creed all very noticeably better than the PlayStation 5, then sure, I think that changes things quite a bit, and it doesn't really matter as much that Halo's not there, because people are going to be running to the Xbox ecosystem en masse to be able to play their games at a higher fidelity, higher resolution, higher frame rate. But I don't think that's the case. I just wanted to note that.
No, of course, and I agree as well. We're not saying we both pre-ordered the system knowing what's coming, and playing our you and I play a lot of older games sometimes, so playing those games even better is not anything to kind of like scuff at and be like, oh, who cares? Because that does matter. Because
we're definitely gonna use that. I'm just saying that you can't be reliant solely on that.
You and I, our backlogs are full, so you can't just rely on it. It's hard to market that. It's hard to market saying, hey, all that stuff you have on a shelf can play nice now, when most of us are used to playing them the way they are now. So
yeah. So I guess we can move into a little loose topic that I think is going to be pretty fun, which is our favorite or the best movie tie-in games. Now, this is a loose topic you thought of, and I had a lot of fun thinking of this. And obviously, we are well aware that most movie tie-in games are pretty terrible. Yeah. And they're kind of just trying to bank in on the brand recognition at any given point when those things. It's something that's certainly decreased in volume these days. That was very much like a THQ bag back in the day, especially from like 2000 to like 2005. We're inundated with these PS2 and GameCube and Xbox movie tie-in games for every superhero movie, and sometimes for animated movies. Everything had a tie-in game. But Steve, which one do you think is one of the best movie tie-in games?
All right, so for best, this was hard because, again, we had this discussion like what counts as a movie tie-in game. Is it just the adaptations or something that takes place in that universe? So it took a little bit while, but I had to start really looking through some of this stuff, and shout out to some of these games that were really good and developed it, but there was also a lot of trash. Like you said, THQ at one point was publishing everything. Every movie that came out used to have a movie tie-in, to the point I remember
Fantastic Four 2. I remember that one specifically.
I remember putting in, so if you have the DVD to Robots, that old animated movie Robots,
yes,
if you put that into your Xbox, you play the demo of the game. Like,
yikes.
But obviously that was another my choice. I had to go to, and this is a newer game. I tried looking at these older games, and shout outs to them, the Aladdins and all that stuff, but really good game. I had to give it to Raven Software's X-Men Origins Wolverine, which is, yes. It's a tie-in, but it's also loosely based. So it's like a weird cross between comic book Wolverine and obviously Hugh Jackman's Wolverine. He did the motion capture, if I remember. His face is on the cover and stuff like that. So this was actually the last game Raven Software did before they got attached to Call of Duty map packs forever, and now they're back on there. But it's a simple action adventure hack and slash game. but it plays very much like you would expect, like some of the older God of Wars did.
Yep.
Which is, and I have to make a small caveat. There was two versions of this. There was a PSP and a PS2 version of it, which is bad. And I think it was PS2, Wii, and PSP. Those versions are bad. Those versions are bad. I'm specifically talking about the 360 and the PS3 version, which was done really, really well. So, everything about it though was just really interesting because that movie itself wasn't the greatest, and this came out during a time when like Marvel movies and superhero movies was really on the up and up with what the MCU was starting to do and things like that. So,
yeah.
So it was very much like a comfort food game, despite some of like the repetitive, so much repetitiveness, which is kind of known for movie tie-in games to be on cheaper budget and stuff. The game looked great. It ran weird at times, but it was, you had to just have fun with it because it was just, you were playing as Wolverine, taking bullets, mobbing through guys, and it was really interesting. And it was, again, I don't remember how much Hugh Jackman really did. I don't know if Hugh Jackman did the voice and stuff like that. If not, it's been a while, but I remember being very, very close to it. So it's one that I'm still hunting. I'm hunting this game down because I don't own it physically, and it's kind of hard because people, for some reason, are really holding on to this game. So that's my choice. It's a you go through the basic movie. Pretty much, there's some extra cutscenes and stuff like that, and some flashbacks with him and Sabretooth. But it showed that Raven Software really could make a great game, and that not all movie tie-in games, at this point, you only really had one other game that people always talked about when it came to these tie-ins, and I'm not gonna mention it because just in case it's on one of our lists. But this brought it that this could be a really good game, and it was. It was, the story was there, a lot of collectibles, a lot of bonuses, a lot of challenges. So that is my favorite movie tie-in game. Not the greatest. It's not a 10 out of 10 game, but it was a really fun game. And that's really what it really needed to be, especially coming off that movie, which was, again, lackluster. So,
okay, yeah.
What do we have for you?
So before I do my choice, because I feel like my choice is probably the answer a lot of people would give, I do want to give one quick notable mention and shout out. I do obviously give a shout out to Aladdin on Genesis, of course. I got to give a shout out to Batman on NES, the 89 one.
Of course, yep.
Come on, and for anybody who's curious about this game that's still listening to the podcast, we do have a video on this game that we had fun playing, and this game is excellent. And a lot of the retro community knows about it, but not too many people outside of that really know about it. And Sunsoft absolutely killed it on that game. And so my main game that I think is one of the best movie tie-ins that a lot of people accept as amazing is Spider-Man 2. Obviously.
Yep.
I played this on PS2 back in the day, and it was one of the first open world games that I felt like was truly open world. And the small thing of being able to be on buildings and swing on buildings and actually land on the ground at the time was insane. I didn't have GTA. I wasn't playing GTA and stuff like that. And also on GTA, you were not, on top of buildings like that. And the previous Spider-Man games, they always kind of had that fog. You know what I'm talking about? That if you fall, you die. PlayStation 1 does. And even the Spider-Man movie tie-in for the first Spider-Man is like that too. But for Spider-Man 2, they changed things up. And you can go on the ground. There's NPCs. They have programmed phrases. They have all these different locations on the map that are in the movie. You can deliver pizzas. Like, there's all these really, really dope things. And the storyline certainly strays from the movie, for sure. But yeah, I just had a fantastic time with that as a kid. I played, probably easily dozens and dozens of hours of this game on PlayStation 2, as well as all my brothers, who we were just obsessed with this. And we would always, say to each other the phrases that the NPCs would be like, I'm walking in. Like, that's what the NPCs would always say. And it's like, there's always something in this town. So we'd always have those programmed responses because we played this game so much religiously. So yeah, Spider-Man 2, one of my favorite movie tie-in games of all time.
So yeah, that's the game I was referring to. So I just didn't want to blow it up. So yeah, Spider-Man 2 is always known as the pinnacle tie-in game. And they even try to recreate that later on when they rebooted Spider-Man. We had two, with the Andrew Garfield movies. Yeah. We had 2 tie-in games, and again, I had to give an honorable mention too. So it's the Amazing Spider-Man video game, but that game actually takes place after the movie.
Oh, interesting.
Which I wish they would have told me that, because right off the bat, and I guess spoilers for the movie, when you find out that the officer dies, right? Gwen Stacy's dad dies in the first movie or something like that.
I believe so. I haven't seen those movies in a while.
Him or yeah, so somebody died. I forgot. And they spoil it right at the beginning of the game. They spoiled the movie, and the movie wasn't released yet and stuff like that. So
really?
Yeah, it was something weird. Somebody died in that movie that you find out early on in the game, and I was like, and I had like
thanks for that.
Pre-order tickets and stuff like that. But it's a really good game, and that's I was really excited because if I want to say, I know it was Activision still, but I think it was Beanox. So this Beanox did this game between when they were doing like all the other Spider-Man games they were making, and it was surprisingly really well done. It did feel like a movie tie-in, obviously. A lot of the stuff just wasn't up to par. But obviously Spider-Man 2 holds such a place in people's minds, which is why I try to stay away from it, because I had a feeling that was probably going to be your go-to, because I know how much you like that game.
It's so good.
So, and it's funny because I think that was like developed by like Activision and Treyarch and Son. It's weird to think. I believe
so. They had some big names on that.
Yeah, it was the game was no shortcoming. Again, the first Spider-Man game, so that you have the open city, open world. I remember doing the pizza missions where you can't swing too much, or your pizza like shakes in the box, or some weird stuff. Some crazy things. One other thing
that was Treyarch. I just looked Treyarch.
Yeah, see, that is, and I love.
That's
Treyarch.
insane.
Yeah, it's weird.
It's kind of unnecessary, but I like it.
Well, this is before they were on Call of Duty,
Yeah, that's true.
Stuck on that stuff. So, one other game, I guess, series I have to give a mention to that they're built on tie-in is the whole Lego series.
Yeah, true.
Which, they did Lego Star Wars, Lego Indiana Jones, Pirates, and stuff like that. And those are straight adaptations of the movies and stuff like that. But at their base, they're really fun. Like, Lego Star Wars, the complete saga at the time, was a game that I wanted so bad. I remember getting it like on DS or something weird.
Yeah, I have it on DS right now. It's terrible. It's so messed up.
Yeah, but it's a really, for some people that's their first launch into Star Wars, which is terrible. But at least it's up and up from. But yeah, it's on up and up from there. They did a lot of other series. They did Lord of the Rings, and they did all these other ones, and now they're redoing all the Star Wars ones in the Lego form, which is interesting.
Oh, the Skywalker saga, yeah.
They're doing the whole Skywalker saga, which was supposed to come out this year, now moves to next year. We'll see what ends up happening with that. But just wanted to give them a shout out over there. I don't even know who's still making those.
Yeah, I remember it was like, what, M2? I don't know. Who was it?
I think T did some of them.
TT Games.
Yeah, so it's still there. Is it still there? But anyway, I know they did like a huge Marvel series. They did the DC series, so I gotta give it credit to them. They gotta be making money if they're still making all these games.
Yeah, so TT Games did it back in the Traveler's Tales. Is Traveler's Tales and TT different?
I
don't know.
That I don't know. I'm not sure. I've always assumed because Traveler's Tales is TT, but I don't know if they were separate entities at once.
Traveler's Tales is a subsidiary of TT Games.
Okay, so they come from
Very interesting.
Okay.
But yeah, it seems like they're still doing it.
Shout outs to them, because they may not be our taste of games anymore. Obviously, the Skywalker saga is. I'm gonna get that eventually. But
yeah, I only really like the Star Wars ones, and I haven't played it since GameCube, so this is gonna be nuts for me.
I dabbled into some of the Marvel ones. It's interesting because it's like semi-open world.
Okay.
So they're interesting. Again, they're fine. They're like fun little games. They're obviously not directed towards us, but they're there. They're fun.
But yeah, best movie tie-in games, a genre that has seen better days for sure. They don't really do them anymore, I don't think. I can't really think of the latest movie tie-in game that I've seen, but I mean, with the resurgence of THQ Nordic, I mean, who knows? Maybe they'll bring that back.
Yeah, they'll bring us
Chronicles
of Riddick.
A Tenet game.
Yeah, Tenet. They'd have to release that movie first to release a game.
True. Well, there's another episode in the bag. I believe 27 here. We're reaching up on episode 30 now. Every Monday, you guys can see a brand new episode of the NeoVintage podcast, so I hope you enjoyed. I'm Jabrell, and I am with...
Steve. Hope you guys enjoyed.
Until next time, we'll see you guys. Bye.
Take care.